I'm a 28-year-old guy, and my younger brother Chris, who's 26, used to date my fiancée, Laura, also 26, about a year back. For some context, their brief relationship started about 2 years ago. They only lasted about a month before Chris ended things. He told her he got bored and wasn't really looking for anything serious. Settling down just wasn't on his radar. Back when they were together, I was living in a different state, so I had no clue he was even seeing someone, let alone who Laura was. I didn't meet her until I moved back home a few months later that year, and we crossed paths at a bar. We hit it off almost instantly. She was hands down the most stunning and intelligent woman I'd ever met. After a few more dates, things started to click, and before long, we made it official. By that winter, I was feeling serious enough to finally bring her up to my family. I suggested they meet her over Christmas. My family already knew I was seeing someone, but I usually keep my personal life pretty close to the chest. I didn't share too many details until I was sure she was someone I saw a future with. When my parents asked to see a photo, I passed my phone around the dinner table. As soon as Chris saw her picture, he completely lost it. He called me a garbage brother for dating someone he used to be with and demanded that I break things off. I stood my ground and told him no. Later that night, I brought it up with Laura, and she confirmed everything. She explained how briefly they dated and how it ended. After a few weeks, Chris eventually stopped bringing it up. I figured he had finally moved past it. Then came Laura's birthday recently. I planned a special night. We went out to a nice restaurant with both our families and some of her closest friends. That's when I popped the question. And Chris? He exploded again, made another scene about me proposing. Thankfully, my sisters and I immediately shut him down. This all happened just last weekend. In the 2 months leading up to that dinner, Chris had been unusually quiet. I hadn't seen him much and figured he was going low contact, which honestly, I was totally fine with. Then out of nowhere, he invited Laura and me over for dinner at his place, said our parents and sisters would be there too. It felt off, but since the rest of the family was going, we decided to go as well. Dinner itself was pretty casual, nothing fancy, and after we ate, we all moved to the living room to chat. Roughly half an hour into the conversation, Chris stood up and said he had an announcement. He launched into this long, dramatic speech about how happy he was to have the whole family around for such an important moment. Then, right in front of everyone, he got down on one knee, pulled out a cheap-looking ring, and asked Laura to marry him. Laura looked completely thrown off, confused and visibly uncomfortable. She told him flat out to stop, put the ring away, and get up. My dad moved toward him like he was going to intervene, but I got to him first. I punched him. I won't repeat most of what he said, mostly because I was seeing red at that point and barely caught half of it, but the gist was that he wanted to prove Laura wasn't truly into me, that she just wanted to get revenge on him. Before things could spiral further, my parents dragged me out and said they'd handle talking to him. It's been a few days since that mess, and honestly, I'm still furious. I don't even know how to move forward from this. What scares me most is the thought that Laura might be second-guessing everything now. Any advice? Edit. First off, thanks to everyone who's taken the time to read and respond. I've gone through a lot of the comments since last night, and many of you have made solid points. There's no major update yet since I haven't really talked to anyone from that dinner aside from Laura and my younger sister. Just to clear up some things I saw brought up in the comments. Yes, Laura and I just recently got engaged. It was one of those moments where we both knew we were all in. It might seem fast to others, but I'm certain about her. For the record, I was the one who approached Laura when we met, not the other way around. Whether she had any clue or suspicions that we might be related? I honestly don't know. After I found out about her and Chris's past, I asked her, and she told me she had no idea. I didn't have a reason not to believe her, though I'll admit, after Chris's little outburst, it did make me wonder. I genuinely had no clue Laura and Chris had dated when I met her. Chris and I haven't been close for a long time. We used to be tight, but over the years we drifted apart. Before I moved back, We barely spoke, maybe a quick birthday message and that was about it. Laura knew I had a family, but I didn't really bring them up in detail until I was ready to introduce her. And when she and Chris saw each other again, there wasn't any sign that either of them still had lingering feelings. She acknowledged him, sure, but it wasn't like she was being overly friendly or anything. She didn't treat him like a stranger, but she definitely wasn't acting like someone still hung up on her ex. From what I've been told, their relationship lasted a month, that's it. I didn't think I needed Chris's blessing to propose to someone I love. But hey, maybe I messed up by not bringing it up with him first. I don't know. That said, I'm planning to have a real conversation with Chris this weekend. I want to lay everything out, hear his side of things, and try to figure out where all this is coming from. Looking back, I should have asked more questions about their relationship. That's on me. If anything major happens, I'll definitely post an update. But for now, that's where things stand. On the whole. But he's family stuff, thankfully. Only my mom and a couple of aunts have tried that angle. Most people in my life know me well enough to realize that family isn't a free pass for someone to disrespect me or my fiancé. They'd be wasting their breath trying to convince me otherwise. As for Laura, no, I'm not worried about her going back to him. Not in the slightest. Pretty safe to say she can't stand him either. LOL. Update 1. Big thanks to everyone who stuck around and offered support. It's been a hectic weekend, so I haven't had a chance to respond to everyone individually. But I did go back and add some edits to answer the most common questions folks asked in the original post. Thanks again for all the feedback. Even the criticisms, I've been taking them in. So here's the update. I called my brother Chris and asked if he'd come over to talk. I told him I'd prefer if Laura could be there too, just to clear the air together, but I'd understand if he wasn't comfortable with that. To my surprise, he agreed to talk with both of us. He showed up around noon today. It was tense at first. No one said anything for a few minutes. Then I started the conversation. I apologized, first for not giving him a heads up about the proposal, and then for punching him. He shrugged it off. Said, whatever. But admitted he appreciated the apology. Then I told him what Laura had shared with me about their brief relationship, how short it was, why it ended, and asked him to confirm it from his side. I wanted to be sure I wasn't misjudging how serious they were. His reactions made it seem like they had some kind of deep history, but Laura had always said it lasted just a few weeks. Chris confirmed it. Said they were only together for a few weeks, and that he ended things because he got bored and wasn't really looking for a relationship at the time. Then Laura, calm and composed, asked him straight up if he was doing all this because he still had feelings for her or regretted breaking up. He hesitated, then admitted he thought she looked better now than she did back then, but claimed he didn't have any feelings left. No regrets. He just didn't like seeing a girl he used to date now engaged to his older brother. According to him, as a man, I had violated some unspoken rule by getting into a relationship with her, even if it was unintentional. I reminded him that I had no clue they ever dated when I met her. We weren't close back then. We barely talked, and we lived in different states. I didn't knowingly do anything behind his back. But he didn't care. Shrugged me off and said it didn't matter. I should have broken up with her when I found out. He was adamant that if the roles were reversed, he would have done just that, though honestly, I highly doubt that. So I asked him something that had been bothering me since the whole dinner fiasco. Why did you propose to her if you're not still into her? That part never made sense to me. He looked right at me and basically admitted that the entire thing was a test. He said he'd been talking to one of his buddies, someone who'd known him back when he and Laura were together. Apparently, this friend planted the idea that maybe Laura was using me to get back at Chris. That she was still hung up on him after the breakup, and suddenly dating his brother felt suspicious. So Chris thought it'd be a great idea to test her, to see if she'd drop me if he proposed. Laura just sat there, calm but furious. She asked, "What made you think I was still into you?" Chris said he heard she had been asking about him after the breakup, and that she still hung out at some of the places they used to go. To him it all added up. Laura shut that down fast. She told him she only asked about him once, out of curiosity, not interest. And she wasn't going to stop going to her favorite spots just because she ran into an ex there. She looked at him dead in the eye and said she was offended that he thought she would go that low, that she'd pretend to love someone just to get revenge. And what did Chris do? He gave her this half-hearted apology, and said something like, "You have to see it from my perspective." Like that justified everything. Then he turned to her and asked if she really didn't know we were brothers when we started dating. She said, "Honestly? I didn't even notice the resemblance until we were in the same room. You two act nothing alike." Chris just nodded and said, "Okay." That was the end of the conversation. But before he left, he said something that honestly made me laugh. "You can take back my invite to the wedding. I can't bring myself to support a relationship with someone I used to date." I told him, "You don't have to worry about that. You weren't coming anyway." It's been a few hours since that talk, and I actually feel a lot better. My parents aren't thrilled about him being uninvited, but they understood it was a mutual decision. Probably for the best. My sisters? They backed me up. Said they figured he didn't have any real reason for acting the way he did, and they don't blame me one bit for leaving him off the guest list. So yeah, I'm going low contact with Chris for now. Honestly, I doubt I'll hear from him again anytime soon, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Thanks again for everyone who's followed along and offered support. If anything wild happens again, I'll be sure to update. After the whole incident with my mom at Zoe's birthday, things simmered down, but not for long. To rewind a bit, Zoe actually called our mom out that day for trying to derail her celebration. She told her flat out, "This isn't about Chris." And thankfully, that shut her up. For a minute anyway. Chris didn't even show up to the party. He had to work, apparently. Not that anyone missed his energy. But just a few days later, my mom randomly showed up at my place, saying she wanted to talk about the wedding. I already knew this wasn't going to be good. She asked, again, why I was so dead set on not inviting Chris. Then she hit me with, "You're just insecure about Chris and Laura's past." I told her, again, that Chris and I mutually agreed on him not being there, and if he changed his mind, he could come talk to me directly. That didn't sit well. She got heated. Said if I wasn't going to re-invite Chris, she wouldn't be coming either, because I was ostracizing her son. I just stared at her for a second before I said, "Okay then. Toss your invite in the trash. I'm not begging you to be there." She asked if I was really okay with her not coming. I told her, "It wouldn't be the first time you skipped out on something important to me because of Chris." That hit a nerve. She called me an ungrateful jerk for bringing up her past mistakes, and stormed out. Later that night, my phone blew up. Calls, texts, DMs, from her, from some extended family, even a couple of people I hadn't talked to in years. All saying the same thing, just invite Chris back, it's not worth the drama. Apparently she'd been messaging Laura too, asking her to convince me to change my mind. From what I can tell, Laura never replied. And yeah, most of my mom's side of the family took her side. Said they weren't coming if she wasn't invited. But my dad's side, which is smaller, just my aunt, uncle, and cousins, they're still coming. So are my sisters. And of course, Laura's family is standing strong with us too. Eventually, I called Chris directly, just to check where he stood. I asked if he was cool not coming to the wedding. His response? "I uninvited myself. I told you I didn't want to go, and I still don't." He didn't get why everyone else was freaking out. Said he didn't want to be dragged into the mess, and would tell Mom the same. Honestly, I respected that. He's still selfish, but at least he's consistent. So, at that point, Laura and I made the decision to downsize the venue. With the guest list shrinking fast, it only made sense. And then, things took a very dark turn. 2 weeks after my mom said she wouldn't be coming, she showed up again. This time, she said she wanted to Clear the air. Laura and I agreed to let her in. Laura even made her a plate of food, trying to be hospitable. I asked her, "Are you still not coming to the wedding?" She said she wanted to, but she just couldn't get over the fact that I wasn't inviting Chris over. A simple mistake. I reminded her that Chris's mistake was literally proposing to my fiancé right in front of me. Her response? It was just a joke. Laura, clearly stunned, asked why she even came if she still wasn't budging. My mom said she'd actually come to talk to Laura, and she was hoping to catch her alone. Yeah. You read that right. She assumed I'd be at work, and Laura would be home alone. That's how little respect she has for either of us. Laura calmly told her, "Even if you caught me alone, I wouldn't have had this conversation without him. This is about his brother." And then my mom lost it. She said Laura was spineless, that she couldn't think for herself. And that lit the match. Things escalated fast. Voices raised. Tension boiling over. Laura finally stood up and told her, "You need to leave." She headed toward the door, but my mom followed, yelling about how Laura was tearing the family apart. And then it happened. While Laura was unlocking the door, my mom grabbed her by the hair and yanked her straight to the ground. She was screaming, hitting her, trying to claw at her face. I jumped in, pulled my mom off her, and threw her outside. She started banging on the door, crying, screaming, cussing us out. I didn't open it. I sat with Laura, made sure she was okay. Eventually, my mom left, but the calls and messages started again almost immediately. Once I knew Laura was safe, I texted my mom and told her not to reach out anymore. We were done. Forever. I called my dad and my sisters, explained everything. My dad tried to play it down, said she was stressed. My sisters? They weren't surprised at all. They've known for years that she's, well, not stable. They came over. So did Laura's mom. Everyone helped comfort her. She had some bruises, but nothing too serious, thankfully. Physically, at least. I asked Laura if she wanted to press charges. She said no. She didn't want to be responsible for getting my mom arrested. But I kept pushing, gently. I told her even if she didn't want to press charges, we needed to file a report, something, in case my mom came back. Eventually, after reading through some of the comments with me and talking it through, Laura agreed. We filed a report, not to get her locked up, but to protect ourselves if this escalates again. Laura's also open to talking to my dad about possibly getting my mom into some kind of therapy or mental health treatment. But that's on him now. As far as we're concerned, we're done. Mom's blocked on everything. And we're still moving forward with the wedding, but without her, and without anyone who tries to defend her behavior. I don't know what the next chapter looks like with my family. But I do know this, I'm standing by Laura. And I'm done letting anyone, even my mom, hurt the woman I love. Some folks in the comments had questions, mostly about why my relationship with my mom is so strained and why I didn't open up to Laura about my family sooner. I figured now's as good a time as any to shed some light on that. The truth is, our relationship didn't just start falling apart over the wedding drama. That was just the final nail in a coffin that's been slowly built over the course of my entire childhood. See, Chris wasn't just the youngest, he was the golden child. My mom's little prince. And she didn't exactly go out of her way to hide that from the rest of us. While my sisters and I were left with babysitters or stuck at home, she and my dad would take Chris out for little shopping trips, bring him home his favorite food, new clothes, toys, whatever he wanted. And the rest of us? If we got anything at all, it was thrifted or something used that we all had to share. Chris's gifts, though? Always brand new, always. Just for him. We were even told not to touch his stuff, his toys, his clothes, his things. That was sacred. Ours? Communal. But it wasn't just about what he got. It was also about what he got away with. When he screwed up, and trust me, he screwed up plenty, I was the one who got punished. Why? Because apparently, as the older sibling, I should have been a better role model. One time, when he was maybe 6 or 7, he had this habit of breaking his own toys just for the fun of it. Instead of them asking him why he was doing that, I got the belt. My mom told me he must have learned that behavior by watching me. Then there was the time he tried to push a kid down a flight of stairs at school. He was 8. I got grounded for 2 weeks and was forced to write an apology letter to that poor kid, because clearly I should have taught my little brother how to behave like a decent human being. When I turned 13, I finally asked for an allowance. They agreed, but only if I did a long list of household chores, mowing the lawn, raking leaves, trash duty, and more. I did all of it for a modest $25 a week. Then Chris saw me getting money and suddenly decided he wanted an allowance too. Instead of giving him his own chores, they just took $10 out of my allowance and handed it to him every week. Because apparently I was doing such a great job that I could afford to share. And when I asked him for help around the house, he'd laugh and say, "Not my job." And you know what? He was right, it wasn't. Not according to our mom. That was when I really started to distance myself from him. I didn't hate him, not at the time, but I resented what he represented. By the time I started high school, we barely spoke unless it was necessary. When I turned 17, I got a job. Not because I wanted spending money, but because I wanted a car of my own. Something I could earn and own and not have to share. My sister Ashley helped me set up a bank account and taught me how to budget. I worked like crazy and finally bought a used car at 18. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Then Chris got his license. And guess what happened? My parents asked if he could use my car. Just for practice. I wasn't thrilled, but I agreed, thinking it was temporary. It wasn't. Soon, my mom told me Chris needed the car more than I did. When I said no, she lost it. She threatened to kick me out if I didn't do the right thing for my brother. The argument got so ugly that I ended up being forced to sign over the car to him. And she was right, I had nowhere else to go. So I folded. Graduation came, and I was the only senior whose own parents didn't show up. Why? Because Chris didn't feel like sitting through a long ceremony just to watch me get a piece of paper. My mom stayed home with him. My sisters and my aunt and uncle were the only ones who showed up. They took me out to celebrate, but even that was cut short when my parents called and said they made dinner to make it up to me. Except they made something I couldn't eat, shrimp and chicken served on the same platter. I'm allergic to shellfish. I sat there and just stared at the plate, while my mom acted like it was some grand gesture. Honestly, that was the moment I knew I had to get out of there. After high school, I worked 2 jobs, bought another car, and saved enough to move out and go to college. I finally cut contact. My mom kept trying to reach me through Zoe and my older sisters. I told Zoe straight up, if she didn't stop relaying messages, I'd cut her off too. When my mom tried going through Paige and Ashley, and even Chris, I finally bluffed about getting a restraining order. She backed off after that. Mostly. Over the years, she would still send me little, happy holidays, texts. That's about all. When I eventually moved back to town, Paige told me that they had started seeing a family therapist, mostly at her insistence. Supposedly, my parents wanted to make amends. I was cautious, rightfully so, but I agreed to meet with them under one condition: everything had to be genuine. And for a while, it seemed like maybe things could change. But that didn't even scratch the surface of the damage that had already been done. Years of neglect, favoritism, and flat-out abuse don't just disappear because someone says, "I'm sorry." So when I met Laura, I didn't tell her much about my parents at all. Not because I was trying to hide anything, but because I truly didn't know where things stood with them. I was ready to cut them off again if they gave me a reason, and it turns out they did. Again. Laura never pushed. She could tell it was a painful topic, and she respected that. But now that everything's come to light, I figured people deserved to know why this wedding situation hit so deep. It's not just about Chris proposing to my fiancée or my mom siding with him. It's about a lifetime of being treated like I was disposable, like I didn't matter. And now that I have something good in my life, someone who truly cares about me, they're trying to tear that down too. Not gonna happen. First off, I just want to thank everyone who's taken the time to offer advice or send kind words over the last few days. Or weeks. It's meant a lot. Laura and I have actually been reading the comments together, and it really helped us feel less alone in all of this. So seriously, thank you. Now, on to the biggest question I've gotten. Why did I ever bother reconnecting with my parents after everything? Well, the short version is because I would do anything for my sisters. Paige, my middle sister, was pregnant with her first child at the time. And she really wanted her baby to grow up with a real family around, not just holiday aunts and birthday card uncles. She wanted us to all be present. Whole. And Paige has never been the type to ask for much, so when she came to me and said, "Can you just try for me?" I said yes. Because I knew it would make her happy. Because I love her. And if I'm being honest, I think some part of me hoped maybe, just maybe, my parents had changed. Do I regret giving them another chance? No. Because if I hadn't, I never would have met the love of my life. And even though everything else about them still sucks, finding Laura made it worth it. Anyway, on to the actual update, because yeah, a lot has happened. After the incident with my mom hitting Laura, we did file a report with the police. We were told that even though Laura didn't want to press charges, it's not really up to us. The state decides if they move forward, though they'd keep our wishes in mind. We provided everything we had, photos of Laura's injuries, text messages between us and my parents discussing what happened. It was enough to get it officially on record. To be honest, I don't think anything will actually come of it, not where we live, but at least we've started a paper trail in case anything else happens. The next couple of days were chaos. I received over 100 angry messages, which at least told me someone had confronted my mom about what happened. And then, things escalated again. She showed up outside my job and tried to corner me. She started yelling, saying I was a terrible son, that I was trying to ruin her life over a little misunderstanding. She kept going on about how she didn't deserve this, and what did she ever do to be treated this way. I told her straight up, if you didn't want to be in legal trouble, maybe don't go around putting your hands on people. She demanded I tell the police to drop it. I told her, again, that it wasn't up to me, and even if it was, I wouldn't. That's when she lost it. She started hitting me, nothing serious, just a couple slaps on the chest and arm, before security stepped in and dragged her off the property. Yeah. That actually happened. I had to explain everything to my boss, and thank God she was understanding. When I got home that night, Laura and I had a long, serious conversation about our next steps. We talked about what this family situation was doing to both of us, the stress, the fear, the constant feeling of walking on eggshells. We decided we were done. We took the advice a few commenters gave us and agreed to go completely no contact with my parents. The only exceptions would be my sisters, Ashley, Paige, and Zoe, but as far as my parents go, we're out. Laura suggested we consider moving, putting some real distance between us and the constant family drama. She'd been trying to stay out of it for a while since it was my family, not hers, but after everything my mom did, especially to both of us, she just couldn't anymore. She said she wouldn't spend another second of her life dealing with that kind of behavior. And honestly, I felt the same way. That night, I told Laura I was ready to go to therapy. She even offered to help me find someone and set up appointments. She's been my absolute rock throughout all of this. The next day, I called my dad. He didn't pick up the first time, so I left a voicemail asking if we could have a serious conversation. When he finally called me back, he opened with, "Is it okay if your mom joins this call?" I agreed because, let's face it, she needed to hear this too. The call went as well as you'd expect. I told them both that Laura and I were going completely no contact. My dad immediately went on the defense. After everything we went through to repair our relationship, how could you just throw it all away? He asked. I let him have it. I told him that the situation with Chris, along with everything else that had happened, just proved to me that nothing was truly fixed. As far as they were concerned, their world revolved around my mom and my brother, and that was it. Nothing had changed. I went on to explain how their favoritism toward Chris, even as adults, had ruined our relationship beyond repair. I'd only tried to reconcile because Paige asked me to, but now? I was done being disrespected, especially after how they treated Laura. Then I turned to my mom. I told her I was done being her scapegoat. Done with her blaming me for Chris's behavior and her mistakes. I would never forgive her, not for what she did to Laura, and certainly not for what she did to me and my sisters growing up. She tried to interrupt. Tried to say, "You need to move on, your sisters did." I cut her off mid-sentence. "If Ashley and Paige chose to forgive you, good. Let that be enough for you. You'll never, never, get that from me." That's when she started crying. She asked, "How could you treat me like I'm some kind of villain?" I hit her with it. "If you're upset, be upset with yourself. You did this. Not me." She broke down even harder, then said something I'll never forget. "I regret having you. You've only ever brought pain into my life." That was it. Laura stepped in at that point and gave her a piece of her mind. She called my mom disgusting, cruel, and told her she didn't deserve to call herself a mother. Laura said a lot more than I could put into words, but it was intense, and it needed to be said. After that, my mom either left the room or decided to shut up, because she stopped talking completely. My dad, still trying to be the peacemaker, said he wasn't okay with me cutting him out of my life. He begged me to understand my mom's side of things. At that moment, I was completely done. He started going on about how my mom was struggling, how the kids were fighting, and how it wasn't fair for me to punish her for the issues she was facing. Then, the usual line. "We're family, and you shouldn't let past mistakes prevent us from moving forward." I told him. "At the end of the day, she only cares about herself and Chris. Nothing you say will change that." I made it crystal clear that it was up to him whether he kept my number, but as for me? I was blocking both him and my mom for good. There would be no more attempts at fixing things. And with that, I ended the call. Later, I sent an email to the rest of the family, excluding my aunt, uncle, and sisters, with a link to my post explaining why they weren't invited to the wedding. Writing it wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary. I hadn't cried in a while, but once I finished, I broke down. Laura held me close, reassuring me that we'd be fine. Paige and Zoe reached out after reading the email. I apologized to Paige for not being able to keep trying, but she said it wasn't my fault and that it was okay. The family's reactions have been mixed. Some were upset that I shared family issues publicly. Others were blindsided. Many didn't know how toxic things had become with my parents. Then Chris reached out. He asked if I was cutting him off too. I told him I wasn't, but I wasn't going to go out of my way to contact him either. He didn't argue and simply wished me well for the wedding. We haven't spoken since. Laura and I are now looking for a new place to live. We're planning to move closer to her brother, about 3 hours away. I've spoken with my boss about a transfer, and Laura's looking into either remote work or a new job altogether. Oh, and the wedding venue changed again. With a smaller guest list, Laura's dad is offering his lake house for the ceremony. I don't plan to update again unless something major happens. We're ready to move on with our lives. I'll answer any questions though. Thanks for all the support, and happy holidays. Edit. It took me a couple of days to post this. I had to trim some details, but feel free to ask if anything's unclear. I'll answer what I can. Comment. Your mom might try to find out where you're moving. I'm expecting it. She's persistent when she doesn't get her way. I've already spoken to a lawyer friend about a possible restraining order, just in case. Thanks again for all the kind words. Comment. Did your mom read the comments? According to Zoe, she's read some of them. She thinks strangers on Reddit have no right to call her a bad person. Honestly, I don't see any way back for us. I just want them far away from me.